there's a funny incident with this Extinction Rebellion in London yesterday, where they went up to the head of the UKIP party, and there was a journalist with them, and these boys were going off and about we need to do this, we need to do that. And the interview went awry, and they turned on these protesters and started asking where they went to school. They called them posh boys. A journalist named Katie Hopkins.
Well, we know Katie. She was with the Rebel. Here, let's play a clip of that. Yeah, I don't know if you know, Mark, but Katie did a lot of journalism for us in the past. We have that clip. Let's just play it here for a minute. It's vintage Katie Hopkins turning the tables. Yeah. Okay, I mean, it's a long clip. We'll just play a minute of it. Take a look at this.
There's this perception I have where I live, and it's a place called the rest of the UK, that climate protesters are massively overprivileged and kind of posh kids, and you seem to be falling straight into that for me. Okay. So can you explain to me why it is that it seems to be almost a luxury of the privileged that live in London to dictate to the rest of us what we should and shouldn't be allowed to do?
We're not dictating to anyone.
It feels that way. No, I'm just asking you about this idea of privilege. So like your hero and pin-up, Greta, is actually a very privileged individual with privileged parents. You, it sounds to me, are a privileged individual. Can I just check where you went to school?
No.
Can I ask where you went to school?
Absolutely not.
Did you go to a nice boarding school?
Does it matter?
Yeah, I'm just asking. You've been asking Gerard a lot of questions, and I've only asked you one. Yes, I've only asked you one question. I just want one answer. Just before we move forwards, I just want one answer to one question, and I'm just asking where is it you went to school? So one question. Gerard's just answered. Gerard has just answered 15 of your questions very politely.
It goes on for a bit, but you can see he does not want to say how fancy he is, because it's true. Yeah. I want to tell you an anecdote, if I may. When I was with the Sun News Network, I went to British Columbia for an anti-pipeline protest, and it was the largest environmental protest I've ever been to in my life. I think there were close to 1,000 people there. For sure there were 800. And it was right downtown amongst the gleaming towers of Vancouver. And Mark, I don't know if you know Vancouver well. It's not far away from where you are now. It has an enormous Asian population. Lots of Chinese Canadians, lots of Indo-Canadians. I think it's actually a majority-minority city now. And I was at this protest. This was about 5 years ago. And out of 800 people, I saw only 2 visible minorities who were Asian. I went up and I asked them, and one of them was actually an Australian Chinese guy who was visiting Vancouver and said, I just came to see what the fuss was about. And I can't remember what the other person told me. To have 800 people in Vancouver and only 2 of them are Asian, that's almost statistically impossible. And it goes to, I think, a white liberal snobbery, pseudo-religion, superstition. I mean, you can come up with your own theory, but I think Katie Hopkins is onto something there, where this is a dilettante's project. You've got your fancy car, your cottage, your boat, your vacations, you're jetting to Bhutan, like you mentioned before, but then once a year, you virtue signal and you tell everybody how awesome you are because you're trying to make the little people pay a carbon tax.
Yes, when the environmental movement is actually self-aware of this, they've actually openly talked about they have a race problem, they have a minority problem. They are literally a lily white community of wealthy white environmentalists, and the whole climate movement. I've had scientists, one of them is Dr. Dennis Rancourt of Ottawa, a physicist who's talked about it being essentially global warming is a condition of the white upper middle class. It's their perceived tragedy, their perceived catastrophe, and they're trying to impose it on the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. And if you look at places like Africa and Asia, where the 1 billion people don't have the running water and electricity, they're worried about survival and development. Mm-hmm. They're not worried about, levels of carbon dioxide in the environment, but they are. But the environmentalists got around that now because they're offering them massive amounts of funding to their leaders to pay them off to join the treaties and stuff. But you're absolutely right. Hopkins is right. These are privileged, mostly white, wealthy individuals with great connections. That's what the modern environmental movement is all about.
That's an excerpt from the Ezra Levant show. Every day I do a video monologue and then I interview an interesting guest, and then I end by reading my hate mail. But you've got to subscribe to it, which you can do at therebel.media/shows.